and my upset son in Lisbon, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. If God's with the king on that, he'll just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.
Good night and welcome to yet another exciting episode of This Just In. I'm Marsha Boys. With me, of course, Justin Marvel and Neil Hoyt. Now, guys, one of the biggest stories in sports right now, the NFL, yes, but not action on the field, but that ongoing battle with coronavirus, COVID-19, really doing the most, as they would say, with the NFL. And we are going to touch on that a bit later, but of course, we'll be concentrating on the NFL for the first segment of this show. And then later on, we'll also be looking at the life of the legend Diego Maradona, who passed away last week. But starting with the NFL, Neil, I'm going to start with you. Turning our attention to action on the field. Yes, Justin, sorry to disappoint. Neil gets first dibs. Action on the field, the spotlight is on certain players as we head toward the playoffs. So that MVP conversation, has Aaron Rodgers forced his way back into that MVP conversation, or is it really a done deal for Patrick Mahomes?
Good night, everybody. So I'm glad you started with me because we all know what Justin Marvel would say. As you can see, the jersey he's wearing.
Spoiling the image and vibe that we have going here with that
You understand? You understand?
I only come to add and enhance. Add and enhance, I tell you.
Anyhow, so in my opinion, I think that Aaron Rodgers is making a very good case for himself for MVP this year. I mean, when you look at how many, because outside of the yards, total yards for this season, I would say these players are just there and thereabouts in terms of stats as it goes from game to game. I mean, their completion percentage is about the same. Their yards per game, their average yards are the same. QBR is almost the same. I think the difference here is that, well, there are two reasons why we put Patrick Mahomes above Aaron Rodgers now for the MVP, and that's simply because, one, Aaron Rodgers not only does it with his arm, but he does it with his legs. He is second on that Kansas City Chiefs team in rushing yards. Aaron Rodgers is, he runs enough to say, he can get himself out of a sticky issue if he needs to. But at the end of the day, 215 yards rushing for Patrick Mahomes over the course of the season, second on the team in rushing. And then, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs are 10-1 versus, 8-3 for Justin's Packers. So, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers does lead the league with 33 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes is tied with second with Russell Wilson with 30. As I said, these players, other than the amount of yards, total yardage, right? I would say these players are neck and neck in terms of statistics. In terms of play, though, if we're putting aside the stats and we're going based on watching the games and seeing people play, Patrick Mahomes, his legs, they're doing some work, man. I mean, when you got Tyreek Hill, you have Tyreek Hill as a wide receiver, Travis Kelce. You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right, as running backs. As a running back on your team and certain scoring options. So obviously you've found the targets. You have your favorite targets in Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. But then you could come up behind Clyde as second for rushing on a Kansas City Chiefs team that is 10-1. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, don't get me wrong, Aaron Rodgers is no slouch. I mean, he got Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He targets him a lot. He has Justin, I can let you say his full name, but he can't say Brown. No.
Brown, Devontae
I would
Adams.
just say, right, and Devontae Adams, but I would say Equan. Equan say Brown. And Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers is not a slouch. He has, especially Aaron Jones as well at running back. They have a well-rounded offensive team. Aaron Rodgers is playing really well at 37 years of age. But again, the two stats and the two things that should stand out for everyone is 10-1, and Patrick Mahomes is crazy in the rushing yards side of the ball.
Sorry, Neil mentioned, the Chiefs are 10-1.
So let me stop you. This is your opinion as an analyst, or this is your opinion as a fan? Let's make that distinction clear.
Hold your mind, Marsha. Hold your mind, Marsha.
I never come on this show with fan-driven aspects. Y'all know that.
Okay.
Y'all do know that. I have picked the Packers to lose games before.
Making that distinction upfront.
You don't need to put the disclaimer out there. I will do it for you.
Accountability, man.
Picking this as strictly an analyst. This is a sports show and not a fan-based show. So let's go down the road. Neil is correct. These are the defending Super Bowl champions, 10-1. Only lost to Neil's actual Las Vegas Raiders, who almost beat them. So I'm not here. Hold on, so sorry. I'm not here to tell anybody that Aaron Rodgers is the best player in the NFL. I'm here to prove to you that Aaron Rodgers is the best player in the NFL, Neil. So yes, you mentioned that Patrick Mahomes does lead has slight margins in completion percentage. Let me look down. Obviously, wins, yards, and yards per attempt. Yards per attempt for me. For quarterback stats. Essentially, Neil, you want to give Patrick Mahomes the MVP because his team is a better defensive team, but this is not a team award. This is an individual one. So, Marsha, I'm going to tell you why Aaron Rodgers is the best in the league, and not just quarterback, but the best player and most important. He leads in, and I'm going to list them for Neil right now. He leads the league in touchdowns at 33. He leads the league in touchdown to interception ratio at 29. Leads the league in quarterback rating, I think, at 117 point whatever. He leads the league in QBR. He leads the league's highest scoring unit, second highest scoring unit, and that's what one of a point behind the Seattle Seahawks, who are about to go on Monday Night Football. So essentially the highest scoring unit. He leads the best offense in terms of red zone efficiency. He leads the league's best offense in terms of red zone scoring. Neil, all the numbers are pointing to Aaron Rodgers. The problem
no, don't do that. Not all at all.
The important one, sorry. So let's go back and listen.
No. If you're talking numbers, the most important number there should be 10-1, and the second most important number there, because as much as you're talking about the QB rating and all these sort of things, right? Yes, he does lead the league in 117.6 and touchdowns and everything, right? But let's not act like Patrick Mahomes is so far removed from that.
Those words never left my mouth, Neil.
No, hold on a minute. If we are going on statistics, individual statistics, then fine, right? Let's go and give it to Aaron Rodgers, who's balling out at 37, no doubt, right? But to me, the most valuable player is the player that if you take them off the team, they will not be in the position that they are now.
And I'm glad you got there.
If you take Patrick Mahomes off of that Kansas City Chiefs team, that team is not even a wild card team.
So I'm glad, Marsha, I always say Neil has this way of coming around to me, right? So you got to the most pertinent point of taking a player off of their respective. We have gone through the weapons on this show multiple times that Patrick Mahomes has. He has arguably, he has right now the best tight end in football because George Kittle is out injured. So Travis Kelce, without a shadow of a doubt, is the best tight end in football. He has the best deep threat in football in Tyreek Hill, as we saw against none other than Tom Brady's Bucs this weekend, when he went for 200 yards receiving in the first quarter alone.
Yep.
He has the best rookie running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I think is top 10 in rushing. Furthermore, top 5 in rushing already.
I was just about to say top 5, yeah.
Then he has behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Le'Veon Bell. He has a Super Bowl winning head coach who has been to a Super Bowl before that, and multiple championship games in Andy Reid. He has arguably the best offensive coordinator there is in the game in Eric Bieniemy. must they go on? He has a receiving core that has Sammy Watkins, that has Mecole Hardman. When you look at Aaron Rodgers, and this is not to say because I hate national talking heads who look on the outside and say the Packers don't have a lot. That is not factual at all. You
I
don't
was
have
just
the
about
top.
to say it.
You don't have the top leagues or the top scoring offense in the league by accident or by just one man's right arm. We do, in my estimation, right now, Devontae Adams has to be, by production, the best wideout in the game.
Right.
He's second in the league in with 11 touchdowns and has missed 2 games due to injury.
Right.
You have a top 5 running back in Aaron Jones. He's missed time due to injury as well, but he's averaging like 4.8 yards a carry. Robert Tonyan, I think, is leading all tight ends in terms of touchdown receptions at 7. So this is not to say that Aaron Rodgers does not have weapons to work with. But the difference between the two is that one man has a middle of the pack defense that is not leaking yardage, both rushing, both receiving, and not giving away points.
Defense has nothing to do with it.
Of course, because one team is 10-1 because they have a good defense, and the other team is 8-3 because I won't even get into Mike Pettin because Mike Pettin's not in our argument right now. One team only has. We have 12 takeaways on the season, just 12. Mm-hmm. 3 of those came last night against for reproduction purposes. On Sunday night against the lowly Bears, 3 of those takeaways came. So essentially, we have played for most of the season with just 9 takeaways. Our bleeding yards, we cannot stop the run if we load it with 10 players in the blocks. Neil, our defense is substandard, and we are living on that top-rated offense led by Aaron Rodgers. I am not telling you Patrick Mahomes should not be the MVP conversation. I'm not telling you that you would be crazy to say Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. I'm just telling you that Aaron Rodgers is indeed the MVP, and he is the league's best player right now.
Well, guys, you heard it there. Some different opinions. One for Patrick Mahomes, one for Aaron Rodgers. So let us know what you think in the comments. Who at this stage would you consider to be the NFL MVP? The Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, or Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers? Drop us, a note in the comments. Join the discussion there. So, guys, from these 2 players, let's now turn our attention to the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts. No. For the purposes of discussion, Jalen Hurts.
All right.
Should he get the start over Carson Wentz? This is a debate that is going on and on and on. So let's settle it somewhat here. Just going with you. Jalen Hurts over Carson Wentz.
All right. So we're talking about the Eagles right before their Monday night game against the Seattle Seahawks. Let's talk about this. Carson Wentz indeed leads the league in interceptions, I think, with 14, and has played 1 fewer game than everybody else but the Seattle Seahawks. He leads the league in total turnovers, I think, at 17, and still has played 1 fewer game than anyone else but the team he's about to play, the Seattle Seahawks. And here's where you jump, Neil. And after all of that, I'm going to say you're going to have to start Carson Wentz. Because
what the funny thing about it is? Sorry to cross you, right? But you jump me just now, because I think we can say the same thing here, but you go ahead.
Because if you are a Super Bowl winning head coach, right, after all these 17 turnovers you've had, and I must believe, right, that he knows more football than the 3 of us sitting down here that just watch it every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night. If he has not put in Jalen Hurts at this point in time, after this one dude is turning over the ball at rates unseen, there has to be a reason. And that reason is that Jalen Hurts is not ready for the NFL, or at least not to quarterback an NFL team in title contention. And I say title contention as it sounds weird, because as much as the Philadelphia Eagles only have 3 wins, and you would figure, well, this is the time to put in a rookie quarterback because the team is bad, they are in the NFC least. So those 3 wins have
preach,
them only
brother, preach.
They have them only a half game out of first. And if they do beat the Seattle Seahawks tonight, guess who goes right back in first place? Those Philadelphia Eagles. So now is not the time for Jalen Hurts
experiment.
And the thing is, we talk on this show about 2 or 3 times about Tua in Miami. Do you know the reason we know of Tua Tagovailoa in college? Because Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was a so-so starter at Alabama, riding an extremely good defense and great playmakers. And then they got in a title game, 2018 title game, if memory serves me correct, against SEC rivals Georgia. And Jalen Hurts was not cut it. They should have lost that game. Who did Jalen Hurts have to get benched for? Tua Tagovailoa, and that's where the story of Tua Tagovailoa comes about. Jalen Hurts had to be benched in that game. Alabama went on to win. The next season, there was starting controversy, but all of us that knew college football just know that Nick Saban was biding time before he inserted Tua over Jalen Hurts. And I mean, if you can't start at Alabama, you're asking now to start for an NFL team vying for contention for a division title. And on top of that, so then people will say, okay, he remodeled himself after he went to Oklahoma. He was in the Heisman winning race when he was playing for known quarterback guru Lincoln Riley. The issue is that Lincoln Riley develops quarterbacks, so he makes them look good. Neil's guy, Baker Mayfield, also came from Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley, and we see what Baker Mayfield looks like now. So those stats in Oklahoma are inflated. A lot of those throws are wide open throws. He makes it very simple and easy for quarterback reads and tight. He doesn't ask you to make tight windows. These are things Jalen Hurts couldn't do because he was benched in Alabama because he couldn't do it. So clearly, they know the situation in Philadelphia, and that's the reason he's not playing.
Neil, what about you?
Well, I agree. At the end of the day, still, when you look at the NFC least, when you look at the NFC least, as Justin likes to call them, the Philadelphia 70 Eagles at 3-6-1.
70 Eagles, I love that.
They are 3-6-1, right?
And a half game out of first.
And a half game out of first in the NFC least. Now, I was digging, to see certain things as to, Jalen Hurts and everything like that. But somebody told me, you know what, Neil, look at the schedule for the rest of the season for the Philadelphia Eagles versus the other teams that would have been like the Washington football team as well as the New York Giants, the teams that are actually leading the NFC Least, right? When you look at the schedule, right, you have New York, they're going to have a tough time of it. They're going to have to face teams like the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Browns, and the Ravens. You have the Steelers. Washington has to face the Steelers, the 49ers, the Seahawks as well, and the Eagles for the last game, right? But do you know what? It is not the time to put in an unproven rookie. It's not a time to put in a guy that you have not seen enough of to say that he can lead. I can't even say lead, but you just want to win games. The games that you can't win, you want to win. You want to put yourself in the best position to win. And when you put a rookie quarterback into it, that is problematic. Yes, you do have Carson Wentz, and yes, Carson Wentz is a guy that is leading the league in interceptions. And he seems what's his quarterback rating? His quarterback rating is 73.3.
Don't read it.
Right?
Yeah, it's a children's programming. Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
You understand? So, like, at the end of the day, still, even though he is bad, you got to go with what can give you the best chance to win any of the remaining games, right? So, at the end of the day, you have to go with what you know. Carson Wentz, he may very well take you out of the wild card situation and take you out of first in the NFC East. But you know what? At the end of the day, you have to go with the experience and the person that can give you the best chance to win games. And Jalen, the truth of it is, I don't think Jalen Hurts is that guy that can do it. Yeah. I mean, what we talking about? No, that game at the end of the season against the Washington football team may very well come down to quarterback play. It may very well come down to the last yard. You want Jalen Hurts? Do you want to lose the number one seed in that bad division because of a quarterback mistake? I mean, granted, you would live with Carson Wentz because at the end of the day, he gave you the best chance. But Jalen Hurts, I think that Carson Wentz, you gotta go away, And as bad as everything is, anytime to experiment.
No, it really isn't. Especially considering the mammoth contract that Carson Wentz is currently under. I think the only people who are making more are Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, obviously, Deshaun Watson, Ben Roethlisberger, and Aaron Rodgers are the only people, and maybe Jared Goff are the only people currently making more guaranteed money than Carson Wentz. So the financial situation alone dictates that you have to play Carson Wentz unless you're going to trade or release him.
Yep.
Very much so. So, guys, now from the Eagles, we go to the New Orleans Saints. You know, another discussion over that. And has Taysom Hill shown enough competency, so to speak, to take over from Drew Brees next season? Neil, starting with you this time around, your thoughts on Taysom Hill?
Taysom Hill is a pretty competent quarterback. You know, from what I haven't seen much of him, to be very honest. But you know, I watched some highlights of him and stuff like that in preparation for this show, and he has had the last two starts because you know, the thing. But to be honest, I think Taysom Hill is a decent quarterback. I don't know if I would say he has shown you enough to say that you're going to go with him, but I think he's shown you enough that the transitionary period after Drew Brees should be okay, if that makes sense, right? I don't know long-term quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, but I would say that next season you can see him without Drew Brees being in front of him. Hopefully this season he will learn a lot from him. You know, he's not a bad player. I mean, he does run the ball. He's very athletic. He can give you some yards. I mean, he has 5 touchdowns in his limited game, in limited amount of games that he's played. He had a great game against Atlanta before, and then he had an okay game, subpar game, okay game against Denver. So, I mean, I think transitionary wise, I think the New Orleans Saints, they're going to be okay. I don't know if it's their quarterback for the future. He is a dynamic passer. I would like to see a bit of his long ball. I would like to see how he handles the pressure and how he can maneuver out of the pocket and everything like that. Hitting players right through the on those short routes and everything like that. That's what I would like to see. If he can really hit the deep ball under pressure and stuff like that. But I mean, he has proven that he can throw the ball, he can find receivers consistently, and he can run the ball. So to me, when you have a quarterback that can pass the ball and run as well, I don't see a issue. I mean, compared to, I mean, you got Alvin Kamara and what's his name, Murray. What's his name? Latavius Murray, right? You have those as running back, and you know who's the next best running back on that team? Sorry, the next best rusher on that, Taysom Hill. So it shows me that he is very active with his feet and he can get stuff done. So, I mean, Drew Brees was never that kind of player. He was only a pocket passer. So it adds a different dimension for New Orleans going into next season, having him being so mobile with his feet. And if he can somehow be consistent in his play, his passing, I think the New Orleans Saints can be all right in terms of their transition to the next era after Drew Brees.
So you're asking me, Marsha, if Taysom Hill has shown enough for New Orleans to feel comfortable with him being the starter next season. Had you asked me that last week, I'd have probably told you yes. He went 18 of 23, if memory serves me right, against Atlanta, as Neil mentioned. But, you know, I was fooled because that's a very bad Atlanta. It's not based on his quarterback ranking or rating or standing against Atlanta. So I said, you know what? I liked his showing against Atlanta. We'll see what happens in Mile High Denver. And would you know it? And we're going to talk about that, I guess, shortly. That Denver, I don't know, decides to ignore every single COVID-19 protocol there is in place. None of their quarterbacks are available. They had to use not even a wide receiver, Neil. They had to use a wide receiver that was on their practice squad, not on their full squad, to play quarterback. Needless to say, he went 1 of 9 and threw 2 interceptions on the 8 out of the 8 incompletions he had on the day. So I said, well, this is a game, obviously, that Taysom Hill is going to completely obliterate and prove why he should be the quarterback of the future for the New Orleans Saints. So, well, that didn't happen because just as badly as whoever they put at quarterback in Denver, Taysom Hill didn't look that much better.
Kendall
He really,
Hinton was his
did
name.
not.
Kendall
Hinton was his name.
Hinton.
That is a
Well,
piece of trivia that is not going to go past right now. Like I
no,
never
no.
remember that name again.
Yes, I think Denver became that. Kendall's stats gave Denver the only team that had more interceptions than completions. Yeah, that's how bad it was in Denver. I mean, they had 0 quarterbacks available to play. And so apparently so too did the Saints, because their old Taysom Hill went 9 of 16, no touchdowns, and just that lone interception. Granted, you're playing in Mile High, you're playing in Denver, and that's always been a tricky place for quarterbacks to play. And Denver, as bad as their offense is, has a reputable defense. But that is still no, like when Denver continually gives you the ball, and you have all of these possessions, these extra possessions, for you to go 9 of 16 for 70 odd yards, not even 80 yards, for 70 odd yards and an interception, tells me pump the brakes on this Taysom Hill love. The issue is, though, Marsha asked me a direct question, so I have to say, yeah, he's done enough, because Sean Payton and company have paid him like he's going to be the starter next season. He is guaranteed $16 million next season, not this season, next season. And you know me on this show, I like to follow the money. So if I'm paying you $16 million in dollars next season, you $16 million to be a backup quarterback. So whether Marsha, whether Neil, whether Justin Marvel believes that Taysom Hill has shown him enough to be the starter next season, guess what? The $16 million tells us that is exactly what Taysom Hill is going to be next season.
So you agree with me then, is what you're saying?
Follow the money is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So is it that hard for you to just say, you know what, Neil, I agree with you?
I'm not saying, because Neil says he believes he's seen enough. I'm just saying I've seen enough in his bank account to know that Taysom, whether we want Taysom Hill to be the quarterback or not, they're surely paying him. They're surely paying him to be that quarterback next season when Drew Brees, because I said it in multiple spaces that this is indeed Drew Brees' last season in the NFL.
So, guys, we now turn our attention to the Chicago Bears, the head coach versus QB debate going on there. So, from the Bears' perspective, should they move on from head coach Matt Nagy? How am I pronouncing that right?
Matt Nagy.
Matt Nagy, and quarterback Mitch Trubisky. Who has to go? You're going with the head coach or the QB?
There's an or? Honestly, there's an or in this question.
Just on a roll today, Dre.
Marsha, you have to move on from both.
Both of them. That's your.
It's so funny. You know, it's so funny. When I was doing my prep, right? I was like, the answer could be both. You know what I mean? But you go ahead with your both.
There has to be an and. No, let me give some caveats here quickly, because I try to be a fair person on this show. Mitchell Trubisky did not pick himself or did not trade up to get himself at number 2. Mitchell Trubisky did not overlook Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson to pick himself. That was the Chicago Bears and their silly, folly thinking. I don't know what ran pace. I won't.
They saw something that you didn't.
And that no one else did. So So whatever, that is not Mitchell Trubisky's fault. So let's put that out there first. He did not select himself at 2. He did not select himself over Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. So let's put that out there. Full stop. That's not his fault. What is his fault, though, is the lack of progression for the last 3 seasons. And when you can't make basic reads, I've said this about Baker Mayfield. You've heard me constantly, like, that's a quarterback I love to hit. We can't make basic reads. We can't distinguish between cover 1, cover 2, and cover 3. When you cannot pick up defensive pre-snaps, or when you think you see something pre-snap and expect it to still be there after snap, that is a problem. When you can't hit simple 10-yard outs, that is a problem. I watched Mitch Trubisky last night, and I'm quite sure I've said it in this space. I thought it was a bit unfair when Matt Nagy moved on from Trubisky this season, when they were still unbeaten 3-0. I thought it was a bit unfair. And then Lo and behold, Nick Foles gets injured again, and you have to go back to Trubisky. And this is the guy in Nick Foles. I don't know why you picked him up in the offseason because he couldn't even beat out Gardner Minshew to be starting in Jacksonville. But that's another situation. That's Matt Nagy going to get to. Mitch Trubisky, under no sort of pressure early in the first half, had 2 interceptions to the same player. To the same player on Sunday Night Football, and then coughed up another to give us at that time a 41-10 lead. When you are drafted number 2 overall and you cannot beat out Nick Foles, you have to go. But the real man that needs to go before him is Matt Nagy. Now, let me give you another caveat. Matt Nagy was not there when they drafted Mitch Trubisky, so I'll give him that. He was not part of the management that drafted Trubisky. But that makes it even worse, Marsha and Neil, because Matt Nagy came to be Chicago's head coach with the understanding and the full knowledge that Trubisky was going to be his quarterback. And the marriage seemed to work in the first year. We see what Baltimore is doing with that RPO offense, run pass option offense with Lamar Jackson in pistol. They hired with Greg Roman to run that sort of stuff. And it kind of worked in Chicago. And then they started to take off the training wheels and expect Mitchell Trubisky to become the next coming of John Elway. I don't know what made you think that, especially when the RPO stuff is working. You've taken that away from him. And what makes it worse is Matt Nagy. This guy comes as a quarterback whisperer per se. A lot of people don't know he came from the Philadelphia Frank, won the Super Bowl. He was some sort of quarterback guy under the head coach now in Indianapolis, Frank Wright. And then he goes on to work in Kansas City under Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. So when they bring this guy in with a young quarterback, the expectation is that I'm going to see growth and development with this guy because you have made your name developing quarterbacks or working with quarterbacks. And we have seen anything but that. The play calling, he's given up the play calling now. Trubisky has gotten worse, like significantly worse over the 3 seasons that he has been there. The long and short of it, I have spent 5 minutes basically saying Trubisky and Nagy have to go.
Neil, do you agree with him on this one?
Well, I will say no. And I can say why I agree, but not the way he wants me to say that he agrees. So in my opinion, right, I think Mitch Trubisky is who he is, right? He's a backup quarterback. I mean, expectations, he has not been anywhere near. Justin said so well that, you know, he hasn't reached that potential. He is not a good quarterback. He is a backup quarterback, right? So you don't move on from, especially in a situation where you have Nick Foles who is injured. Your starting quarterback is injured, so you have no choice but to go to your backup. So you know what? I would not say you move on from Mitch Trubisky. Justin said he didn't pick himself. Justin said he didn't insert himself into the lineup. You know what I mean? And circumstances has it that even though he's not reached his potential, he has to start. So they got to start somebody. So I don't think they have to move on from Mitch Trubisky. I do agree with Justin in saying that they have to move on from Matt Nagy. I just don't understand. What we talking about here? 5 and 6. You have progressively
partly.
What we talking about? Because at the end of the day, you look at the losses that they've. You look at how they've progressed over the last regressed over the last few seasons, right? Last 3 seasons, right? Justin said he gave up the play calling. As you can, Justin said that early out the season, the Bears were 3-0. They took out Mitch Trubisky, put in Nick Foles, and they are where they are now. He got injured, and he got to circle back to see what is going on now, right? This is a team that hangs its hat on defense. They're 5 and 6. I don't even know what to say. The second last in offense, middle of the pack defense. What we talking about here? I don't know what we're talking about. Matt got to go. Mitch, to me, is what it is. I mean, he's backup quarterback in a bad situation. Can't put anything on the young man. You can't move on from the young man or not move on from the young man. Obviously, after the season, you have to look at your quarterback situation and find a quarterback that is going to be healthy enough to win you games. It is not Mitch Trubisky. So it's not about moving on from Mitch Trubisky. I don't even know why he's in the conversation. But Matt Nagy is head coach of a team that was 3-0 and has not done anything positive since then. So
3-0 and 5-1 and 5-1 at one point, Neil. 5-1.
but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Early up in the season, the third through the season, they were looking really good. But where are they now? Lost 5 straight.
I know Marsha wants to move on. We really should, because we're talking about the Bears on a very good space to be on YouTube Live. But before we go, Neil and Marsha,
put some respect on the Bears' name. Put some respect on the Bears.
No. Like, not this program for sure. But before we go, just remind me that I have, when we go into our WhatsApp chat, I have to drop you a very interesting caveat. There's this big expose on that infamous draft, that 2017 draft, and what the Bears saw or didn't see in Mitch Trubisky. And the funniest part of all of this, they thought of the 3 quarterbacks they were evaluating. They've evaluated Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, and Mitch Trubisky. They thought, and I'm not making this up, I'm going to send you all the chat. They thought Patrick Mahomes was going to be the worst of the 3 and definitely the riskiest prospect of the 3.
So you're saying the real question here is if the team should be sold and get rid of the GM. It's not really if we should be getting rid of Matt Nagy.
The scouts.
We gotta get somebody. Gotta get. Like how you can look at Patrick Mahomes and say that. Anyhow,
I'm gonna say this. Don't forget, they legit said, and they questioned Deshaun Watson's arm strength, accuracy, blah blah blah. Don't mind that this guy has been a winner wherever he plays. No problem. You have some questions. I had some question marks about Deshaun Watson too, and Patrick Mahomes did catch a lot of us by surprise, me too. But how as you are a person who is paid to evaluate people as a job, this is your job. Your job is being paid to evaluate people. And of the 3, you thought that the most risky and the worst of the lot was going to be Patrick Mahomes, and the safest of the 3 was going to be Mitch Trubisky. And you're paid to do this for your living. But we can move on.
Yeah. It ain't Mitch's fault, unfortunately. It's not Mitch's fault.
It really isn't.
Now, guys, you're talking about moving on as we analyze this NFL season. But as the weeks know, the rumblings are really restarting as to whether we will actually get to the end of the NFL season. The NFL is currently in a battle with COVID-19 across the USA as that situation continues to unfold, whether you want to call it a second wave, a third wave, what have you. But as it stands, the NFL is impacted significantly. We saw a slew of Thanksgiving games not being able to take place. Just on Monday, a whole host of rescheduled games being announced. Tentative rescheduled games. Especially the Broncos situation, having to draw for a quarterback who hasn't played in that position since 2018 when he was at college, not even had a practice in that position. Then we move on to the 49ers. They're having an outbreak of, they need to move home from Santa Clara due to restrictions in that state. They're not going to be allowed to play any contact sports as regulations there, forcing them to have to relocate. The Ravens, though, they currently have an outbreak. As of Sunday, the count was about 23. I'm sure that has increased by now. The league itself called off in-person training for Monday and Tuesday because, people went home for Thanksgiving, including players and staff. They probably mingled with their family and friends, etc. So they decided no training Monday and Tuesday. But as we approach the playoffs now, there's only so much room in the schedule to have any kind of rescheduled games, so to speak. So, guys, what are your thoughts on everything that is unfolding? And Justin, I'm going to start with you here. Has the NFL really done the most they could have done in trying to manage this season along with the current pandemic?
I want to jump in and stop you earlier, Marsha, because you said the NFL has a battle with COVID-19. The NFL has a battle with common sense, not COVID-19. They made a complete mess of this. And it all starts with simple protocols. None of us on this show are certain as to what the NFL protocols are when you leave the stadium. And I'm sure the players don't know either, because Denver, we see a situation, their entire quarterback room, and they're supposed to be the smart guys. None of their quarterbacks were cleared to play. we saw, you mentioned of what's going on, but we forgot the whole Tennessee Titans outbreak.
Yeah.
That has been the worst. Well, probably the Baltimore Ravens has been the worst so far. But they had a situation with 18. The Baltimore Ravens, as you said correctly, 23 and rising probably. The NFL has just bungled this situation. First things first. We talked to the current NFL player on this show already. The protocols within the actual NFL stadia, NFL practice facility, they sound okay. They sound legit. They sound like they will work in that scenario. You know, come in, you wear a mask wherever you go, sanitize. Locker rooms have shields, and you are certain lengths apart. You know, not everybody training together, so you have positional groups training, or in your weight rooms, you don't have that many people together, etc. So you can't eat lunch with other people. So within the actual confines of an NFL locker room, NFL stadium, practice facility, it would seem that the NFL protocols are in place. The problem is the NFL is acting like these players are just players on the field. These players leave the facility and have a life. You have to instruct, as much as you're going to say that these are human beings, that they have rights and they are grown adults. If you so want this season to finish, you have to put protocols in place when they leave the stadium as well. And even within the stadium, Marsha, I sit down and wonder, my Green Bay Packers, which I thought were very responsible and model franchise. 2 games ago, I saw Aaron Jones had a Lambo leap into the stands among fans. Do you believe that he had a Lambo leap into fans? Granted, I think that was his older brother and some friends, but that is craziness. There is no way that you should allow any player to be mingling with fans. And then
Shouldn't have fans.
I'm glad you said that. Yes.
You shouldn't have fans to leap into.
Here's the next thing. So there are certain places that have been smart and have had no fans for the duration of the season. And then there have been other places, notably Jerry's World down there in Dallas, Texas. They have, hold on, I don't want to misquote and get anyone on this show sued because we do not make money here. Hold on. Let us look through. Yes, we don't have any lawyers or thing on this show, so let us make sure that we have everything correct. Let's run through the list. The Carolina Panthers have allowed an average of 5,000 people per game.
But you see, the thing about it is too, you need to look at it in context of capacity, though.
Hold on. I'm going to get there right now. So that is the very fewest. Jacksonville Jaguars, 25% capacity. Kansas City Chiefs, 22% capacity. But hold on for the kicker. The Houston Texans in Week 5 allowed 12,000 fans in the stadium. And if you think that is bad, hold on, as I mentioned, Jerry's World right there in Dallas, Texas, allowed a whopping 25,000 fans through the turnstile in the midst of a second, third wave, whatever you want to call it down south. It is absolute and complete madness. And not only, as Neil correctly said, should no fans be allowed in the stadium if you want to finish the season. We talked about this off air, Marsha, and you are correct. The fines are just, and the fines and the reschedule is just willy-nilly. So in one situation, I can go and greet a quarterback at the midfield that's not on my team without a mask or without any sort of face covering. There's no penalties there. But I go back in my locker room with people I have just played an entire game with, and they have no mask on, and I'm going to get fined there, meaning the New Orleans Saints, who lost how much of thousands of dollars and a 7th round draft.
I think it was either 300,000 or 500,000. One of those two figures.
It was 500.
And don't get me wrong, I would have slapped them with that $500,000 fine too, and a 3rd round pick, not even a 3rd round pick, just because you got showing the folly you were doing all over social media for the world to see that how callous and reckless you are. But then the reality is, if you're going to do that and find them there, then you can't have opposing quarterbacks meeting at the field after game. This is madness. You can't. Then, in terms of rescheduling, the 49ers, who were the most decimated team in terms of injuries and COVID-19 holdouts, you allowed my game against them, Green Bay Packers, Thursday night game, if memory serves me correct. You allowed that game to go on. Although, like we talked about that, it was basically a second string team because every single starter But the Tennessee Titans early on had their game rescheduled twice. And now the Baltimore Ravens are now having their game against the Pittsburgh Steelers
Steelers.
rescheduled. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, Marsha, but 4. It was slated to play Thursday, did not play. It was slated to play Sunday, did not play. It was slated to play Monday, did not play. It was slated for Tuesday. They said no. You have now
Tentatively
rescheduled
now Wednesday.
Wednesday at 3:40 Eastern. You have allowed that. So what is the difference between the Baltimore Ravens and Tennessee Titans scenarios and that of the Denver Broncos and San Francisco 49ers? It is willy-nilly. And it tells me you don't really have true COVID-19 protocols in place. So I've said all of that. Sorry, I spent about 10 minutes to say, Marsha, the NFL has bungled this entire COVID-19 situation.
It probably felt like 10 minutes to you, but nowhere close to 10 minutes.
Oh, it sure
So,
felt
Neil,
like
That was it.
your thoughts on this whole entire situation? Could the NFL, have done anything differently?
Shoot, they could have done a lot differently. One thing they could have done differently is not allow fans into the arenas. The second thing they could have done was implement. To me, all of what Justin said is true, right? Like you can't be handing out fines to people for one thing, but then allow certain other things to happen. Like for example, that Lambeau leap. Where's the fine for that, right? Where is the protocols for quarterbacks moving in the middle field? Justin said, right? My thing is the problem here is, and Justin always says he likes to follow the money. The issue here is that by hook or by crook, famous Barbadian saying they're going to finish this NFL season, right? When you think that you have a roster of 53 people, plus coaching staff, plus trainers, plus all of the various people and personnel you would need to just have the players on the field to play, you have to have protocols in place for all of those people. That in itself is a Herculean task, right? We saw it with the NBA, how they tried to contain everyone in a bubble. We saw how players were restricted on certain activities, how they had to wear masks in certain areas and had to do certain things in certain ways and everything like that. And people still got COVID. People still test positive for COVID. We are here watching an NFL team, just one NFL team, right? As Justin said, after their practice and everything, they go about their lives, right? You don't know what they're doing, what's in place, what the check-ins, nothing. No one is in a bubble. You have fans coming into to arenas. You have personnel, obviously, security has to work, concession stands have to run. Staff has to be at the stadia, to get things in place for them to run, right? You have all of these players still acting as if there's nothing going on. And there's really, I should wear my mask, but not really, or whatever. Like, I don't understand. Well, not that I don't understand. I understand. It's just that it is funny how you slap the New Orleans Saints with a $500,000 fine, 7th-round pick, being taken away, as if you're trying to tell people, look, we're doing something, letting the communities know, letting the players know, letting the staff and coaches know that we're doing our best to maintain biosecure environments and protocols going forward.
Their favorite line.
You like me there? You like me there?
Yeah, I love that.
Right. But you see how you're trying to show that you're doing something. But then for all you are doing, we're seeing things that you're not doing. We're seeing things as if you're saying, you know what, this is not important. This is something to get past. This is something that is not killing 250,000 plus Americans and people around the world, right? That they're not 100, there are 200,000 cases a day in the United States. That there are not spikes going on over and over in these places. We're seeing countries go into second lockdowns. We're seeing states in the United States go into lockdown, right? Being readjusted in how they can move around and interact with the public. How are you still saying to yourself that there's no way that a NFL team should have to get a wide receiver to play quarterback because none of the other quarterbacks are available due to a pandemic? Like, what are we doing? Like, what's the message you're sending? You care nothing about the player safety. You care nothing about the fan safety. You care nothing about the staff safety. You care nothing about the coach and staff safety. You only care about the bottom line, which is money. And that is a problem for me. That is a problem that going forward, like Justin, y'all remember what it was, we had a live some time ago, and Justin said that he doesn't like. I think the segment was, "Do you think Kansas City can repeat or whatever?" And Justin said that the only thing that will stop that is the Cardinals.
Yes.
Cardinals.
No, the same. Yes,
It was
correct.
Kansas City, yes.
Right, and Justin was saying that the only thing that I think there was a hot take that the COVID is going to stop.
The only thing that could stop them from winning,
man, right now the only thing that can stop COVID-19 is God Himself. God Himself, and Justin and I would have spoken privately about certain things, and Marsha as well, about what would it take for them to stop this NFL season. Justin said nothing short of a star NFL player falling down dead from COVID. And you know what? I don't even think that, because what's going to happen? The players are not empowered to say, let's get together and form a union or boycott games or force our owners into meetings or force the league into meetings so that we can really talk about the future of this season and the health and safety of the players. That is not the NFL. They're not empowered or encouraged. So then what? What are we doing? The owners are the only ones that are empowered and encouraged. So they're going to continue doing what they're doing. If they can let even more people into the arenas. Players want to see the quarterback's face. They want to see people shake hands after the game. They want to see people dap it up and everything like that. There's no restriction. Players wants to leave the facility, could do what they feel like doing. Go to the club, party, travel. Like, it is mind-boggling to me why this NFL season is still playing, right? So the question initially was, did they bungle it? You can't bungle what you put in place. They don't care. It's like you asking me about messing up a souffle, but I don't care nothing about baking a souffle, about making money. You understand? So I am selling cakes, I'm selling souffles, right? And you're saying, well, how you feel about taking money for bungled souffles? Don't you think you should have done more? No, I'm making money. People buying the souffles. So you know what? NFL packages and merchandising still selling. Players, people still going to watch the games live, right? And when you look into the stands, and like people wearing masks and observing social distancing or anything like that. No, everybody granted there are smaller pockets of people in the arenas, but people just treating it like, you know what? Normal Sunday, let's party. Lambo Leap, come let me give a hug and a dap and everything like that. This is insanity to me. And, I think that if an NFL player, a star NFL player were to drop down dead, I think it would be like, okay, there, we can take a moment of silence. We can have flags at half-mast. We can have video tributes and everything like that. But come back next Sunday, though, because games have to play. It is upsetting to me. It is upsetting. We talked about this before, about if the league should have played. And I said that I have no problem in them coming back if they made sure that player safety and staff security and personnel security was observed, right? The NBA pulled it off by putting everybody in one central location and taking care of everything. The NFL cannot work like that, because if you take all of the personnel for an NFL team to function and put them in one central location, I don't know where you can have that. I don't know where you can put that or how you can accommodate that. But that is near impossible. So to me, I think it just shows the callousness, as Justin said. It shows the disregard for human life, and it shows that really and truly the bottom line is money. The players are literally just that, commodities to move around on a field, move around on a chessboard to make me more money. These are not individuals. These are not people. These are not people with lives and heartbeats and thoughts and everything like that. These are simply things that can make the owners money. Full stop. And because you have 52, 53 players on the team, and you have a depth chart going 3 and 4 deep, you know what? If we can put a wide out to play quarterback, that shows me it don't matter if star players fall down dead, because somebody can pick up the football and throw it.
Can't say any better myself, Neil boy.
And just some stats for you. The last time a game was canceled in the NFL, game that mattered was canceled in the NFL, was in 1987. And that actually happened when the players sat out for a week. So there was no choice but to cancel that game. The last game that was canceled outright by the league, not postponed, but canceled by the league itself, was in 1935. So that should tell you all you need to know. So
and
rainfall, snow, sleet, anything, the football, they might postpone, they might reschedule, but cancellations,
but the football has to play.
Cancellations are not part and parcel of the NFL.
and you gave a stat in 1987 or something like that player
When
sat
the
out.
players sat out, yes.
I bet you since then the NFL has put legal wording into their constitution or bylaws or what have you to ensure that that ain't happening again. So that's why I say even if the players felt empowered to sit out games, they know that their money is not going to be coming to them. They know that the owners could take their contracts and rip it up and pay less money, and it still goes back to more money into the owners' pockets. It is disgusting to me.
So just one final quick question before we move on to our final segment. Yes or no? Is it an option for the NFL to, let's say, call it quits, pause the season, and regroup for the playoffs? So cut off where we are right now, give ourselves, some time to get the coronavirus out of our system, so to speak, and restart straight with the playoff. Yes or no? Is that an option they could pursue?
Yes, it is an option, but they're not going to pursue it because it's not an option for them.
Justin?
What he said, like the reality of the situation, we know what this is about, and we know who is involved. Your stat just said it all. They have not canceled a game since 1930, whatever, 37, right? Like
or 35 for an outright cancellation by the league. Yeah,
they are not going to play games, and in my estimation, Marsha, to get where they have to in this COVID-19 mess, I don't think they need to. They just need to put protocols in place for when you are outside of stadium, and it's as simple as that. And I mean, Neil said it correctly.
Not even outside the stadium, inside the stadium too. Like, I don't know, man. Like,
Neil said it correctly. You can't put
finish your point, Justin. Sorry.
We can't. It's okay. There's no problem, Neil, because you basically said all that needed to be said. Like Neil correctly, pointed out, you can't expect the NFL to have a bubble-like scenario exactly like NBA. So I'm not going to compare the two situations and said that Adam Silver was so smart and bright in what he was doing. He is, because he still made sure that every single scenario was accounted for. And yes, these people are human beings, they're not children. But we've seen if you leave a man to do what he wants to do, he's going to do what he wants to do. And it's simple as this. You made a kind of mention to it, Marsha and Neil. These contracts are, most of it, not guaranteed. So if you want to make sure that you get your guaranteed money and we have this season go forward and people are not contracting COVID-19 disease, very sorry, and thus people are not endangering the lives of others, these are the protocols we are going to follow when we are in the stadium, when we're in the locker rooms, when we're in the practice facility, and when we, most importantly, when we leave the stadium. Because I think that is where the NFL is lacking most. So in my estimation, Marsha, I don't think that the games have to stop. You just have to be, let me not even say wise, because Neil summed it up again. You just have to be caring about the players, but you don't care about the players, hence why you don't care to put protocols in place.
Once it is not football activity, we don't care what you do. Just show up on Sunday and Monday and play the football.
And that is clear because you have not fined anybody. No, I don't think that's not true. Tennessee Titans did face a fine. But you have to put protocols in place for when these people leave the facility, and not teamwork, and not in terms of total team gatherings, but individuals who have to police them.
Well, guys, now in our remaining couple of minutes here, it would have been remiss of us to have this show and not make some mention of football legend Diego Maradona, who passed away on Wednesday. Maradona was one of those sports stars who essentially transcended sport and what he meant to the people of Argentina. Reflected by on the announcement of his passing, the government declaring, 3 official days of mourning. Those kinds of accolades normally held for heads of state and heads of government, etc. So it just gives you the true impact that he's had on that country. Any reflections you guys want to share about Diego Maradona?
Well, for me, so I look at my football journey back in the 80s, right? Where, it was Argentina, especially from this side of the world, being so close to Latin America and South America. We would follow Argentinian football as well as Brazilian football, right? You're either back in the 80s or 90s, you're either an Argentine supporter or a Brazilian supporter. No, for me, it was so funny because people who gravitated toward Diego Maradona was the reason why I moved away from him, which is the 1986 World Cup in Mexico, when he scored the hand of God, and then a few moments later scored the goal of the century, where he outdribbled everyone and went from
Seven
midfield.
players.
Yeah, 7 players and scored a goal, right? He was transcendent, but for me, I felt as though in the spirit of the game, I don't know that handball thing. I don't know why, but as in my 6-year-old mind, it came over as he cheated. Things happen, and that as I got older, I realized that's not your job. The job is that's on the referees to make that call. But in my mind, in my young mind, I was like, oh, he cheated or whatever. So I gravitated, became a Brazilian fan or whatever. But I did have respect for Maradona because he was a superstar. Now we have seen in the world of sports very few players, very few people be so like only known by one name, right? Like in a more recent age, we've had LeBron, we've had Kobe, we had Mike, right? We had Usain or Bolt, right? Michael Phelps, well, he's just that one word, Michael. Those 2 words, Michael Phelps. You already know everything to do with him. But Maradona, to me, before him, it was Pele. Everybody knew about Pele. Pele was great, but then it was Maradona. He was amazing in the open field. He was amazing in some of the things he was doing. I was reading earlier that when he was playing in his junior career, in his youth, in his debut, he nutmegged a guy, and it was like at that time, it was like what just happened? You know what I mean? Like you put the ball through my legs, like it was so quick, and the defender said he didn't even get a chance. It's like he closed out on Maradona, and before he even got a chance, the ball going through his legs and he going the other way, right? So it's like
There's actually an anecdote from his autobiography. When he started to play as a junior, he was so good that many of the opposing coaches used to complain, and one of them actually accused him of being an adult midget, pretending to be a teenager.
Exactly.
Marsha, you're a liar.
No, that's true.
Because you
People
remember, and because of his frame, he's very stocky.
Stocky,
so as
yeah,
a teen,
he's very stocky.
Yeah, he faced that kind of criticism.
Yeah, like when you see the old pictures of Maradona and stuff like that, I was surprised to see that he was, in 1986, that was 34 years ago, he would have been 26. He might look like 35. Like when you see his frame and stature and everything like that. So he was a really great player. I had respect for him, even though I did not like him because I was tainted by the hand of God. But it was no denying that he was easily one of the top 5 greatest players of all time in any sport. Let's forget football. In any sport, he was a superstar, right? He was a person that you came to see and you knew about the sport. You may not have known about the sport, but you know about Maradona. So I don't know what else to say. It's unfortunate that he died at such a relatively young age at 60. Yes, he did live a very hard and fast life, but he was still a god in Argentina. He was still a god to many around the world. They lost. In my opinion, this is kind of like when Kobe passed earlier this year, because even though it's not obvious like Kobe, because Kobe was really young, but to me, in the circumstance of knowing that recently he was, playing, he was starting to play some soccer matches. He had gotten some injuries. He was working on his health, and he was trying to do some things to kind of change up everything and take care of his health. A devout Catholic, so it's just sad, is what I would say. Sad goings.
And Justin,
for me, it's polarizing. Unfortunately for me, I didn't watch a lot of football in my younger days, so I didn't see Maradona in his prime. Obviously, as Neil mentioned, the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal match against England, he had a goal, and then minutes later, then, greatest goal of the century, and then went on to win that World Cup. I think it was beating West Germany at the time, I think.
Yes, West Germany in the final, yeah.
Right. So I would not have been following football then to see the greatness that is Maradona at that time. My recollection of Maradona, younger recollection, obviously, is the other polarizing part, which is, the tainted of drugs and, his, as Neil mentioned, the fast life. But, that's not what we should remember Maradona for. When we talk, Neil mentions a superstar, and I think, I echo the sentiments because for me, I think he was one of the first real superstars I knew of. And in terms of football context, when you talk about all-time greats, you say one of two players. The debate, just like how in sports, like you're a Yankees fan or you're a Red Sox fan, you're a Brazilian fan or you're an Argentinian fan, and it is either that you believe Pele is the greatest or Maradona is the greatest. Like, and I've always found it so funny. Like, it is no doubt that you don't call anybody
And
else's
these are,
name.
and not across you, Justin, but these are players that are 2 generations apart. You understand, Maradona was compared to Pele, who was a god in football 20 years before.
And still, you hear those same names, like even of recent vintage, younger players, younger people who have only seen, let us say, Ronaldo and Messi.
Mm-hmm.
You still hear people say, if you have to argue the two greatest, or who's the greatest player, it comes out still, even with Messi and Ronaldo's ridiculous goal scoring feats. And I think these goal scoring feats are historic when you sit down and see the number of goals that these two players score year in and year out. The two names that still come, you don't hear Messi and Ronaldo. You still hear Pele and Maradona, considering whichever nation you hail for. If you are Brazilian or by birth, or you hail for Brazil, as most of our country, Barbados, does, it is that you are a Pele fan. Or if you grew up during about that time, like how Neil is, and you grew up and in your prime, you're watching Maradona, then for you, Maradona is the greatest. So it just goes to show you how great Maradona is, that you are still regarding him either as number one or number two, decades on. And what he's achieved in football is nothing short of spectacular. We talk about the World Cup, but you can't talk about all the countless club goals he's won and all the club competitions that he has won.
And titles with Napoli, etc.
And Barcelona, and then as much as the number 10 would have been a big number when he worked, no one has made the number more famous than Maradona himself. No one has made that number 10 more famous, to the point that if you put on a number 10, you best damn well be good.
That is the same thing as Michael Jordan's shoes. You hear Grant Hill being the next Michael Jordan. You heard, Kobe being the next Michael Jordan.
It's
when
like
you put on
Michael
that
Jordan,
number 10,
number 23.
especially in South America, shoot, you better come with it. You better be real good.
You better be damn good if you put on number 10 jersey. So, and it got to the point, and I think this was a bit beyond ridiculous. I heard someone saying that the number 10 jersey should be retired from all football.
Should be retired, yes. That was a suggestion that somebody made, yeah.
I think that's going a bit far, because it then stops people from wearing his number in memory of him, because you see how NBA players are now starting. Some of them are switching to number 24 in memory of Kobe Bryant to pay tribute. So then when you do that, then you're stopping people from paying tribute to number 10 in terms of Maradona. So I'm not in favor of that, but there is no denying his greatness. It's sad, unfortunately, that my memories of him are of his fast life and then the controversies with him, obviously head coach of Argentina, and the number of challenges he's faced. So it's unfortunate for me. That's my personal experiences. But, as somebody who has been in sports his entire life, like Maradona for me represents that first real superstar that I knew.
And then just to wrap up, for me, Maradona is one of those players who transcended sports, and what he did for the people of Argentina cannot be understated. When you look at a nation who was coming out of a war that they had lost, the Falklands War, there were harsh economic times, and he literally put them on top of the world. And many people have carried that with them as their entire identity. We talk about, when we reflect on the West Indies teams, for example, of that vintage, and we see they stood for West Indians. Maradona represented what Argentina could have hoped to be, for all of their citizens. So with that, guys, I think we can wrap it up here. Justin, you wanted to say something else?
No, I was just adding to your point, because you see, Alvin, I thought even somebody like Messi might have seen himself beyond Maradona, and that's not the case. Like, you hit the nail on the head. Like, you could tell, I think it was this weekend's game, took off his shirt to show underneath the last professional club Maradona would have played for and his number. As you correctly mentioned, because Maradona represents the country. And I couldn't say any better than what you just said.
So then that's it for us here with another episode of This Just In. Be sure to check us out on Facebook. We're on Instagram, and we are also on Twitter. if you've been enjoying this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. You need to subscribe so you won't miss any of our video uploads, any of our posts, as well as, like the video, because your interaction helps us right here on this channel. That's it for us. I'm Marsha Boyce.
I am Justin Marvel.
And I am still
What is this
Neil Hoyt.
flourish?
I don't know. I don't know. Was this more confetti? Oh, that's powder?
That's the powder toss from LeBron.
Well, I was just about to say it. Right. Well, I am still the Neil Hoyt.
Saying good night.
Good night, folks.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Johnny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. If God's with the king of matter, he'll get us the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.